I was at the last meeting and you weren't.
You're right. You are correct.
He's trying to figure
Touche.
out that 11
Touche.
thing, so.
Yeah.
All right, 6 p.m. We'll call the regular village board meeting to order. If you'd all join me, please, in a moment of silence. And the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, you have the roll.
Trustee Mann.
Here.
Trustee Gerger.
Present.
Trustee Charo.
Present.
Trustee Detmers.
Here.
Trustee Mao. Trustee Churchill.
Present.
Village President Kimsey.
Present. Public announcements this evening? I got one. Tonight is Attorney Jurgens' last meeting with us as he's moved on to other things. Some people say better things, but he's leaving us, so he's moving on to other things. So I really appreciated all that you've done for the Village of Chatham. For me personally, you've been a good advisor. I thank you for all your hard work. Wish you well in everything that you're going to face in your next endeavor. And then I got you this because I've always thought that any good attorney is definitely a lifesaver. So you've been a good attorney and you've been a lifesaver. So thank you for everything, Jeff.
Thank you, and I can't express enough how much I've appreciated working with the village and with all of you, and this is one of those meetings I actually really enjoy coming to just because of the people up here and the great people of the community. So Chatham is a special place, and you will be missed by me, so thank you all for welcoming me here.
I still have your
Thank
phone
you.
number.
And you do, and you can call me anytime.
Until you change that, you're still.
So he changes his number.
Yeah, you'll be missed.
Thank you, I appreciate it, Jeff.
Any public comments on the agenda topics this evening?
There was none signed up.
Hearing none. We entertain a motion to put the consent agenda on the table.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Detmers made a motion. To a second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Charo. Any discussion regarding the minutes or the warrants? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
No old business under new business. Can I have a motion to bring to the table an ordinance levying taxes for all corporate purposes for the Village of Chatham, Sangamon County, Illinois, for the fiscal year commencing on the first day of May 2019, ending on the 30th day of April 2020.
I'll motion. Make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Trustee Detmers, second by Trustee Gerger. This is the real estate tax levy for the 2019 taxes due in 2020. Is that correct? Or is it 20 taxes due in 21? 20 taxes due in 21, excuse me. In the amount of $1,461,314. Any further discussion or questions regarding the levy? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Item 2 is a resolution abating the direct annual real estate tax in the amount of $349,603 for the year 2019 levied pursuant to Ordinance 1404. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Churchill has made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Charo. This is the abatement of the reserve real estate tax on the electric bonds. Having met the qualifications for funding, these taxes are abated. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Item 3 is an ordinance, the Village of Chatham, amending the village's outstanding general obligation refunding bonds of the alternate revenue source, Series 2014, to reduce the interest rates on said bonds and amending Ordinance 1404 of the village that authorized those bonds. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Charo has made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Churchill. We've negotiated with UCB, who holds the alternate revenue source bonds or the electric bonds, to reduce the interest rates on the remaining period. Leaves all other items in the bond the same. Principal outstanding remains the same, and the schedule and term remains the same. Interest rates have been reduced from a range of 3.28% to 3.78%, and they are down 1.5 to, where's my sheet? 2.4 over the remaining terms. So any further question or discussion?
Did we seek other people to bond to?
Under the advice of our bond counsel, we had two avenues to proceed with this. UCB holds all the bonds. So option one was to approach UCB and ask them if they would be willing to renegotiate the rates with us. That was the quick and cheap way to do it. The second option would have been to go through the entire issuance of a brand new series of refunding bonds and put those up. The rates that were offered, any of our bond counsel were what he would have expected had we gone through the expense and time to do a full reissue. So that's over $100,000 that's going to be saved in the remaining, or through 2028 on this. So. Further questions or discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
And item 4 is a resolution accepting the lowest responsible bid for the Village of Chatham early warning sirens. Can I have a motion to bring this to the table?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Charles made a motion. To have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Gerber. There's a bid for $54,465,000 to Global Tech Systems, Inc., and it's 2 or 3?
2.
2.
Thank you.
We
2
had
early
a-
warning signs, and this is being backed by a grant, from DCEO grant, $50,000, courtesy of the work and
How many bids did we have?
We only had one bidder. Not very many people make early warning sirens anymore.
Can you remind us how many sirens we have and how many, I mean, obviously we're putting into, are these 2 new or are they replacing 2 existing?
These will replace 2 existing, and then we will move the 2 existing down in southern part of Chatham, where we have just annexed along strips, be able to get those down there so that it pretty much covers all of the Chatham area. The farmland in between, down near Covered Bridge and back up, won't be covered, but
So you're saying we have 2 now and this will be 2 additionals?
no, we've
Or we have
probably
4.
got 6 or 8 now.
And these will be 2 additional?
Yeah,
So it expands our coverage area.
right.
In terms of who-
We have one that's out on Broadus Road now, and it's one of the big ones. And we'll line the other 2 up and move those, one like in the center part of town and then one out by the high school and the elementary school there. And that covers a big band right through the middle. We have smaller ones that are spread out through the neighborhoods right now that cover as the town kind of narrows out as it goes farther south, it covers that area. But some of the areas out near Covered Bridge and Old Indian Trail are not covered now. We'll be able to move some of the smaller sirens out there to be able to help cover those areas.
Where are the 2 new ones going? Do we know?
I've got the addresses. It's where 2 existing ones, well, it's not exactly where 2 existing ones are at, because
close.
when you do the coverage range, we will move those to a different pole. I've got the stuff, but I just can't remember what the address is.
I think it's good because people have said they can't hear them. So this will, certain sirens in certain places. So this should expand that, right? So that.
But they're for when you're outdoors. They're not for when you're in your
Yeah.
house.
Right, yeah.
It's to warn people that are out at sporting events or working in their yards or
Okay.
stuff like that, so.
Okay.
Further discussion, Madam Clerk?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Schedule of meetings, the village board will meet next on Monday, December 23rd. Hope that's a change for the holiday. Committee of Whole is going to follow this meeting.
No, that should be January instead of December the 10th.
You on January 10th, 2020?
Yeah. Sorry.
Not the 10th, that's a Friday. It'll be the 14th.
Is it January 14th
Yep.
or is it 13th?
14th.
Okay.
14th, January 14th, Committee of the Whole and Board meeting, January 14, 2020. Any comments on any village?
I didn't sign up
Along the highway? No. It's an emergency route now, and you can't have stuff hanging down that semi trucks and stuff can hit. So,
Yeah, as the state is preparing to do all the road construction on I-55, they've labeled Route 4. You see the signs as you go down, you see, as they call it, emergency bypass. So,
Can we put them on,
yeah, the snowflakes, but yeah, the state's,
yeah.
put a little sign on there that says emergency bypass.
Actually, they are up.
They are up.
They're down at the park, all congregated together to make it look like snowflakes.
So they did find a home, they just, not their usual home that's on Route 4.
Yeah.
Will we be going back to that after?
It's going to be hard to, you know, they won't be done with that construction for years on 50.
It's a 10-year upgrade plan to I-55 around Springfield.
So until and unless they remove that designation, that's the rules for that. So,
Maybe go right up the park.
yes, go to Light Up the Park, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 6 to 9. They are there. Any other public comments? Hearing none, motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Charles made a motion of a second.
second?
Trustee Churchill, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any of the chair? The ayes have it. Meeting stands adjourned. You have to wait 4 minutes.
Talk about LARPing again.
We can skip that conversation.
We could. See, I just took off. Well, it was good seeing you,
Your
Amy.
second outfit?
Oh, you're switching out.
Amy, it was good seeing you.
Yeah, I actually have a work function, so.
How do you have a work function? You just got back to work.
What?
You just got back.
I'm still an employee. Still work, right? Oh, I'm so used to you guys banter.
Hey, I didn't say it.
I know.
He told me to say
And
it.
you. Congrats on your new,
You roped again.
so are you moving?
Throw it out for a change.
There you go.
Because you're in
Three
Montgomery
outfits.
right now, aren't you?
When they watch the video back, they're not gonna be able to tell
Exciting, so
what
Bloomington?
No.
Well, take care.
Thank you.
Did you switch to the?
Yeah, I'm on the.
All right.
And that's. Thanks.
Bye, Amy.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
No, we'll meet before Christmas, one time, 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
I've got an updated ordinance I can pass around.
Is this just for Joe or?
Yeah, for you too.
Oh. Here you go, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Nope, just one.
This just comes in line with state law, right?
Well, pretty much, yeah.
And we have whatever we can do.
Yeah.
Watching that. Close.
Oh, no.
Learning
I
how to
don't
do
have
it.
any intent. No. I thought you meant forging your names.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Matt on location tonight.
He's volunteering in Colorado or Florida.
What's happening in Colorado?
No, I just, from when that stint when he was gone for,
Is he with FEMA again?
yeah.
There's a volcano on some island. Maybe he went
There
there.
was a volcano that erupted.
What did he say?
New Zealand?
Yeah.
What's that?
Two Americans got hurt pretty bad yesterday.
It takes the weekdays, you know. Less visitor.
Whatever the island's name,
I
White
don't know,
Island.
volcano and.
I think it's called White Island, so it's maybe White volcano.
I think it was. I think I went to Ringi Toto.
White volcano?
I don't know what it's called. It's White Island,
Oh, White Island.
and it's all made up of, it's just that volcano. Small island.
Kinda like
No, I think someone just showed up.
Way smaller. I think everybody died. That didn't get off, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly.
Before that, maybe?
I have to look that up.
I don't know.
Guys, I gotta go to my daughter's, get to my daughter's.
Yeah.
Christmas concert, so.
I didn't need your input on anything anyway.
Yeah.
He's going to Amy's work function.
Oh, is it time to go? I think,
Yep. Call to order. Roll call.
Trustee Mann.
Here.
Trustee Charo.
present.
Trustee Detmers.
Here.
Trustee Scherzo.
Present.
Chairman
Yeah, they
Gerger.
skip you.
Present.
They don't skip you.
Public comments on agenda topics. We don't have anybody signed up. Does anybody have any comments? Chief Foley? No. Okay. Consent agenda, do I have a motion to bring it forward?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Charo, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Detmers. Any discussion on the minutes? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Old business, none. New business, CMT engineering updates?
I put together, Jim didn't have a whole lot, so I put together his comments and my comments. You want to do all that, or do you want to do the cannabis drug paraphernalia one first, and then we'll go over?
You can do all yours.
All right. First up, I had just a reminder, December the 16th, the chloramines go into effect. I checked with the plant today, and they're still planning on next Monday being the first day for chloramines. Leaf bag pickup. Waste management's already been through the village once. Their last pass will be the week of December the 16th. So starting Monday, they will make it through the whole town again, whether it be over 1, 2, 3 days. I think it took them 3 days to go through the town the last time.
Are we going to put it on the website that this is your last?
It was in.
Last call?
It was put on there today.
Good.
Facebook page or the website?
I put it on the Facebook page. I sent that alert out to everyone to let them know about the chloramines and also the waste bags.
Good.
Some bad news. Mike Pierce, the gentleman we hired to do the branch pickup, him and a son of his passed away this past Friday. They were in an auto accident in Alabama, and both of them, or I'm sorry, Louisiana, and both of them died in the accident.
You're kidding me.
No.
It's terrible.
Oh,
One of his other sons also works for our street department, Marshall. So if you see any of the Pierces, well, they won't be back to town till tomorrow, I think. The village is, you guys will be looking at a settlement agreement that our attorneys helped us with on the North Point Commons area. We had our engineers go over and come up with a value of what work still needed to be done out there. Jim come up with around $44,000. Aaron Evans from Sorling worked with me and Jim, and then worked with CEFCU, and we're going to have a settlement agreement of $38,808.75. So that'll be on the agenda for you guys to vote on at the next meeting. Village offers a 457 plan, deferred compensation to their employees. Village doesn't contribute to that plan, but because we offer it, the board is the actual overseers of that plan. Our auditors said that new rules coming out next year will require us to do a whole bunch of extra things if the board stays in charge of it. They recommend that we pick 3 employees to oversee that plan, which would mean that they would meet essentially once a year and say, you know, here's the rules that we had in place, here's the rules that we'll keep in place. But that'll keep the board from our auditors from having to do a whole bunch of extra steps. They said that a lot of communities that are doing this are switching to these 3-person boards. So I'll have the papers and ordinance ready to go for that to be able to switch.
Does the switch have to be by January 1?
No, no, it was,
Or is it per fiscal year?
yeah,
You said that 3-person board are employees.
yeah,
And our fiscal year's May?
May 1st. We've been working on an update to the customer service policy manual. I've talked to some of you individually and in groups on this. We've got it in red line form. Still need to talk to Ryan on it. I will most likely have that to put on board docs for the next meeting, but I'm not asking you to vote on it then. I'd like for it to be out so that the public can see it. We'll probably discuss it at the committee of the whole in January with the idea of trying to pass it at the last meeting in January.
Okay.
We had our attorney send a letter to Matrix asking them where our
Product is?
draft report was. I got a response, and the response said that they were sorry and that they would have the draft response to us by Thursday, the 12th. Let's see. We got our notice from EPA that the permit that we had for West Park to do the regrading is closed out, so we're done with that.
Any further word from concerned citizens on that?
No. He approached an attorney and they contacted us, and then Lisa Hartzler from Soiling contacted him and told him that, look, we've done everything that we were supposed to do. We've got permits from EPA. They've okayed it. We're done. So we haven't heard back from them.
Have we finished the person on Carroll's Point? Did we finish that grading to his drain?
It's not completed, okay?
Okay.
It got so wet back there that we couldn't get the vehicles back there to work on it.
Sure.
But it is working so that it's keeping, his backyard and basement from getting flooded. The culvert repairs in Glenwood Lake Estates that we're covering the roadway part, and the folks from Glenwood Lake Estates are covering the replacement of the pipe underneath of the road. That's part of their overall lake and drainage system. The engineers for the subdivision have prepared all the drawings. They've got those to CM&T. They've looked at them. Now we're just waiting for a bid and a contractor to be able to go out there and do the work. They're planning to try to get it done as soon as possible, but it may be spring before we get around to doing it. We still have on our MFT work for this year, the upgrade of Spruce Street where it exits onto Gordon Drive, and then also at Ptarmigan where it enters into Garvey Lane. Both of those are still on. The contractor that's supposed to work on it said that because we're putting concrete down, all we need is a couple warm days so they can get all the rock work and everything else ready to go and put the drain pipes in. So that's still a go for this year. One of the things that we also had planned to do this year was along Walnut Street where the asphalt comes to an end and the shoulders have dropped down. We're going to put some of the stuff that was chewed up from Park Street, the millings, put those down and then roll those and make better shoulders. So we're going to start that work probably next week. We still need to do an ordinance to adopt the ADA plan.
I was gonna ask you about that.
Yeah, so we need to pull together an ordinance for that.
So have the lawyers even looked at the document yet?
I have not had them look at it yet. The Parks Comprehensive Plan at your January Committee of the Whole. Massey and Massey will be here to go over the plan with you. We've had it through committees. We've had it through open houses. they have it ready to go. They want to make sure that you guys are all okay with what's being presented. And then we can turn around and plan on adopting that if there's any changes that come out of the next meeting and stuff.
Good.
And the last thing is I had a request for a special permit for alcohol. The Catholic Church is having a trivia night on January the 25th. So are we okay with giving permission for the Catholic Church to use the open special event permit that we have? So,
I think they have to have their wine.
huh?
Yeah, they have to have
Yeah.
their wine. It's the blood of Christ.
All right. And that is it.
Okay. Any questions for? All right. Utility, review of an ordinance amending Title 13 of the Village Code regarding cannabis and drug paraphernalia violations.
Want me to provide an overview of this?
Yeah.
So with the change in the state law that will legalize cannabis or certain amounts of cannabis beginning January 1, we have to update the village code, which currently has kind of a strict, obviously, prohibition and makes it unlawful for the use of cannabis. So we have put together an ordinance that the village can consider. And this has a couple of different components to it, and I recently updated this and provided you with an updated ordinance tonight on this. But it basically makes it an ordinance violation to possess the cannabis outside the legal limits. So if you're an adult, under the new law, you can have 30 grams of cannabis on you. If you are, have 40 grams of cannabis on you, it would be an ordinance violation and you'd be subject to a fine. Or under this, if you possess cannabis in certain areas, and this tracks the law. For example, if you can't have cannabis on school grounds and things like that, that would be an ordinance violation. It also provides that if you're a minor, you can't have any amount of cannabis. So if basically anybody under the age of 21, it becomes an ordinance violation. Selling to a minor, those types of things. It also provides for an ordinance violation for the unlawful consumption of cannabis. So if you are doing it, this is where we get into if you're doing it in public. That would be an ordinance violation. So if somebody is standing outside Village Hall smoking cannabis, that would be in public view. You can't do that under the law, and it would be an ordinance violation. One of the things that is changed in this ordinance as compared to what was originally provided was we had a section that said that cannabis had to be in a sealed, labeled container. Actually, in looking at the law, that is more designed for when the cannabis goes to a dispensary. So that's not actually in the act that once you purchase cannabis from a dispensary, that it's always got to be in that sealed, labeled container. So we took that provision out, but there are and there's something under the act that basically says only the person who purchases can break that seal and that type of thing. But that's one of the differences in here. It also provides in here that you cannot have the cannabis plant. Of course, if you've got a medical prescription card and you're allowed under the law, you can have up to 5, but otherwise it's an ordinance violation to have the cannabis plant. We provided that all of these would be violations subject to a $250 fine. That would be up from the current fine, which is it 200 or? It's 200. So it's a little up, but that ordinance hasn't been updated in several years, so that fine is at 250. And that basically, there are some exceptions under the law, that are in here as well. If you've got a medical cannabis card, those types of things. But essentially, this makes it unlawful and subject to an ordinance violation to possess cannabis if you're not entitled to under the law, or to consume it in public, those types of things. It does provide the law enforcement the discretion to refer this to the state's attorney's office if need be or the state requires. A few years ago, some of this was changed so that they made these more local ordinance violations. And so really this is focused on making this less criminal and more of an ordinance violation than, putting things into the criminal court system. Some of that may change, but this is kind of designed to be able to be flexible with that in terms of if something does need to be referred to the state's attorney's office. The other component that this changes is drug paraphernalia. So we have an ordinance right now in the books that provides that you can't have drug paraphernalia. It includes, cannabis, things related to cannabis. It does have some exceptions which are tracked to the Paraphernalia Act in state law. But under the new provisions of the Cannabis Act that were approved by the governor, I think it was last week, they've now separated a definition of cannabis paraphernalia. So what we've done in this code update for the village is separate out drug paraphernalia and then cannabis paraphernalia. So it will still be unlawful for anybody, including adults, to have drug paraphernalia unless they meet one of the exceptions, such as it's for teaching or it's been, destroyed and is only decorative, that type of thing. But if it's a cannabis paraphernalia, then adults can possess that, and it's only an ordinance violation if somebody under the age of 21 possesses cannabis paraphernalia. So this ordinance that will be on the agenda for your next meeting essentially is updating the village code, coming into line with the state act that is going to make cannabis, at least in some aspects, lawful to use and possess at the beginning of January. That's kind of a quick overview. I'd be happy to answer any questions or get into any of the details further if you'd like.
Just one other thing, I saw in just a news story that Sheriff Campbell was talking about how you can't do it in public and you do it at home, but the other component he was talking about was that you also can't do it at home around a minor, someone under 21, unless they're part of the medical cannabis pilot program.
And that's right, and that's in here that you can't do it, near somebody that's under the age of 21. It's knowingly under the age of somebody under the age of 21.
Even in a private residence.
That's right, and that's one of the other changes in this version of the ordinance as opposed to what was originally prepared. We went back and tracked the actual kind of language of ordinary public view and public view. Which, under the act, it talks about, parks and different things like that. So that it just more tracks the language of the statute. One of the questions that has been discussed a lot is, well, can I be on my front porch and smoke cannabis? And as the chief is saying, that's kind of an interesting gray area. You're technically, in your resident's property. But if, kids are walking by and things like that, you can argue that the act does not contemplate allowing that type of a thing. Some of the other communities I'm representing, the way they're talking about this is the police aren't going to be turned into the cannabis smoking police. I don't know that anybody's going to be out there patrolling for, people on their porch smoking cannabis. However, they get a noise complaint and they go out and there's, 5 people on the porch and in the front yard smoking cannabis, then under this code update, they could be ticketed for that. So, again, in theory, you're not supposed to be, in public view, smoking cannabis.
And these tickets wouldn't go through the court? So do we have an administrative
court, right.
tribunal?
That's right.
Who's on our tribunal?
We don't have a tribunal, we have a judge. Judge Holmes.
Okay. Because ours says is court of law or administrative tribunal.
It's the same thing.
Is he considered that?
Yes.
Okay.
Chief Foley, do you have anything you want to say?
It's ever changing, and that will be a Supreme Court decision somewhere down the line as far as where being on a curtilage and not on curtilage, and stuff.
Yeah.
We'll see.
They still have the right to arrest someone if they have amount to be able to sell, correct?
Yeah, trafficking, all that type of thing could still be, obviously, is not really contemplated by this ordinance. That'd be probably more of a criminal prosecution. And as, just again to reiterate, I think there will probably be, No, not a lot of communities, at least that I've seen, have been dealing with this aspect of the update in the law. So, you know, there could be changes to this language. There could be updates that you're looking at the first of the year, you know, as even the legislation is amended. But this will kind of get things up and started for the first of the year and be prepared for, you know, you be able to react if, you know, somebody is standing right outside, you know, smoking cannabis, or you've got a minor that's smoking cannabis, or you've got an adult that's got too much cannabis. This kind of puts that framework into place. So,
Any questions from anyone?
I swear I read that it had to be packaged and labeled. Did that recently get removed?
no, it does, the act does say that, but it says that for,
Oh, here it is. Here it is. Is it still in our
no,
13016A?
are you looking at the ordinance online?
No, I'm looking at the drafted ordinance that we have before us. 130.
Yes, so that was taken out. That language was taken out of this ordinance because technically the act talks about a requirement that it be labeled and sealed when it goes to a dispensary from like a craft grower.
If you're looking, are you looking at the online one?
That's the old version. This is the new version. And it does not contain language about it being sealed and
Because it's talking about from a grower to a dispensary.
that's right, in the act. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, one of the reasons we initially thought about putting a provision in that, like that in there, was to limit the black market and, you know, try and say, yeah, you can have cannabis, but you have to have it from a, you know, a dispensary. But without it being, you know, a specific violation in the act, without having home rule authority, you know, I think that might be something you wait and see if that's something that
They change.
you want to add and you want to, you know, potentially look at that in the future.
Make sure you get one from me.
So, gotcha. So what I was just referring to was it shall be unlawful to possess yada yada. No person shall possess cannabis in the following locations: 1, 2, 3, and then 4. In a vehicle not open to the public unless the cannabis is reasonably secured. Sealed container.
That's in a vehicle, right? But if somebody's walking down the street with it, then that would be different.
Okay, thank you.
So I think the vehicle aspect is very similar to the having alcohol. Chief, and you can kind of speak to this, but you know, you're not supposed to have it accessible and that type of thing when you're in a vehicle.
So Chief, can I ask you how, so, you know, it's unlawful to possess any more than 30 grams of raw, but how are you going to know whether or not it contains more than 500 milligrams of THC?
You have to send
So
it
that
to
hasn't been worked out yet? Okay.
You have to send it off. Maybe if you made an arrest, you could send it for testing.
I'd have to see police criminal doing analysis on that.
Right.
Just curious. It's
Yeah, the packaging may say it.
question. Well, yeah, true.
I think this law is going to change.
Oh,
quite a
yeah.
bit,
Oh, yeah.
So,
So do we have a consensus to bring this forward, though, to the board,
I don't have a problem with
the
it.
vote? Everybody, yes?
yeah.
Yeah, so put it on the
it is
agenda to vote on. Because we probably want this in place before January 1, so
That's
we're ahead of the curve.
At some point,
Chief
are we
Foley
gonna-
has his teeth. Well, but has the ability. Yeah.
do we need to do any updating in terms of, if we talk about it being sealed in a car and inaccessible, but if someone's under the influence in a car, and I know that's also an issue.
That'd be a,
That's a DUI.
yeah, that'd be a DUI.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of how you test.
That's still being determined by other law enforcement agencies throughout the state validation.
Right,
There is no set standard for driving under the
Right.
influence of cannabis.
right,
The only way we'd be able to do that is take them to the hospital and do blood.
right.
But part of it too is, you know, being able to make an assessment, right? And based on training and different things like that, so.
Well, how are you, without getting too deep into it, I mean, how are we going to communicate these to the officers and what they can and can't do with this particular ordinance?
You guys,
There'll be training on it. I mean, we'll supply them with the ordinance and stuff and we'll go training on it.
Okay.
Okay. Next, Utility Oversight Committee discussion. So we went out to the plant and chloramines are coming. They promised December 16th.
Monday, right?
Yeah, Monday. It better happen, or I don't know what. Oh,
I don't know what we gotta do.
So then we also had a discussion about the bonds, and we're assured that it won't lengthen the time frame. It won't lengthen anything but what we owe. So that was good. There's no balloon, there's no anything adverse like that.
Which also, just to also point out, with that, that means there will be no need to, with the increasing bond payments over the, that we will not have to raise the water rates,
We're not going to have the ramp,
the ramp, right?
so knock on wood.
Reportedly.
Yeah, allegedly. So that's what we have from there. Public Property and Recreation Committee?
Sure, two things. Pat mentioned briefly the public properties comprehensive plan. So that you'll see, again, it's lengthy. These are obviously ideas. It doesn't mean that we'll have the financial means to commit to all of these items, but I think it should be our path forward. Reviewed it several times, and I think Massey will give a pretty good presentation because he's done it several times already. So try to read over that if you could before January 14th. Second item is part of the Public Properties Commission is we're tasked with reviewing the summer recreation program and asked to advise to the board its findings. I'll probably talk in terms of we, and by we I mean the board, the Public Properties Commission board. So in reviewing, there's been several changes with respect to the summer rec program over several years. It used to be as lax as you drop your kid off in the morning, you pick them up in the afternoon, and we do all kinds of cool, crazy things with them and take them to Knights Action Park on a bus, and we're responsible for any and all of their actions. And, just through the change in our culture and our liability, that's been drawn back. So now we don't transport kids anymore. We don't, take over them. We don't watch them all day long, that sort of thing. That the next change in progression was to help these businesses sometimes or persons in Chatham host these activities. We would hire employees to assist them. So Paul, if you wanted to run a basketball camp, you could get with the administrator of this program and say, hey, I want to run a basketball program. Can I have 3 employees to help me? I want to give the kids shirts and basketballs. What price do I need to go to? So you would essentially work with the plan administrator and say, yeah, we need to offer this program at $75 per kid. And then with that, you would get your assistance, and basically all you'd have to do is show up and run your program. You wouldn't have to do any legwork. The village received payment and dealt with any disputes or refunds. And so the administrative burden was 100% on the village. Well, we realized at one point that there may be some liability in hiring these employees because we don't necessarily know them all that well. They're just hired temporarily to run a basketball camp, and we're not putting them through all of the background checks that you might with a normal employee, and that puts the village at risk, because if one of those employees were to do something inappropriate, then the village would be on the hook. So the most recent change was that the village decided not to hire any staff for these events or for these camps. And there was some miscommunication, internal or external, I'm not exactly sure, but that wasn't shared with all of the hosts of the programs. And there were several programs that were kind of caught off guard by the fact that they would have to pay and find their employees assistance. And that evidently caused some drama within certain groups. So, where do we go? Do we continue to scale back the program, or do we double down and start hiring people and do more detailed background checks, or what's the direction that we want to take this. And the board, the Public Properties Commission, just asked for 2019 statistics on the program. So that's before you here in the spreadsheet. The leftmost column is just the program name or the lead of the program. So sometimes you'll see a name, sometimes you'll see that it's the Lego Camp. Just an idea of how many programs were offered. The number of participants in those programs is in the second column. And then the number of refunds in the third. So you can see that Burkett had a camp that had 13 people sign up for it. 13 people were issued refunds. That was one of the ones that was unaware that they would have to provide their own assistance. So they were like, well, never mind, we're out. So we had 13 people sign up, and then we had to issue 13 refunds. So in total, as you can see here, there were 285 total participants in the program, 32 of which were refunded. So there was about 250 total participants, and that came from 124 distinct addresses. So, I think a lot about this type of thing and think, I'd hate to take away from the summer rec program because it's providing our children opportunities to do stuff in the summer. How many children? Well, there were 124 addresses. So that gives you an idea of how many total children might be affected by it. But after looking at how many kids are involved, well, what are the expenses to operate it and what type of revenue was brought in to offset it? And as you can see, there was a gross profit of about $2,600 to help pay for the program, but that does not include the cost of the employees that are required to operate it. So just to give you an idea of, financially, it's a pretty large expense. So the board, the Public Properties Commission suggests that as a go forward, the summer rec program simply be a schedule of events that occur in Chatham and have that be available electronically so that any citizen can go and see, well, what can I do with my kid this summer? And German camp will be on the list, and, contact Dewey for German camp. Here's his name and number, and you have to work out all the details with them. The Public Properties Commission believes that the village should not be involved in the administrative aspect, so we're not going to keep a list of the kids that sign up or their nut allergies or what their parents, contact information, or we're not going to receive payment or process refunds or anything. So really, the advice to move forward is to be a marketing tool only. If the village chooses or if the board chooses to have a cost to advertise your camp in that program, that's up to the board or to the village administration to operate that fee. The only other information provided was that the board believes that because the responsibility of hosting these camps is sort of shifting, that the village should help transfer that responsibility to the camp provider. So if you guys had an in on a basketball court that they could rent, then you could share that information with them and help them transition to being responsible completely on their own. So if there's any counsel that you can give to these camps, because the board does want the camps to occur and to continue to occur, just the village will have less involvement in it. That was their suggestion.
So for those that, I have a child in a camp, and who oversees the camp then? So if one of the lead persons of a camp, they're in basketball, and as a parent, I've got an issue with how it's being run, who do I go to? Because there's a
Person that runs the camp?
There is a village employee that one of their main tasks is to operate and facilitate and manage the summer rec and winter rec programs. So that person is, if you were the basketball coach and I didn't like the way you handled my son with a disciplinary matter, then I'd first talk to you. And then if I wasn't
as the lead
of the host of the program, and if I didn't like what you had to say, then I would probably go to the summer rec program coordinator, or I'd go to Pat and say.
So there's still a village employee that is providing oversight for the whole program
including all these
Yeah.
programs.
You could say that. I'd say it's more of a coordinator more than anything. And it's not like they're,
I think that's where there's,
Shipping in or-
I think for the 124 households, I think that's where there
They're,
questions.
they wouldn't be able to do anything to that camp. They just would not promote that camp next year.
well, they probably, like, if, like, Paul and I just didn't get along and she might offer me a refund or something like, okay, well, sorry this happened. Here's your money back. And
But we're not getting the money.
no, I thought he was talking in a current state. Were you referring to how it runs currently or what you're suggesting?
I mean, once
Or-
with the suggested
Okay.
change, with the, no,
Okay.
I mean with the.
Sorry, I apologize. Moving
Yeah, no, I wasn't
forward,
yeah, moving forward, I mean, next, so if we take the.
right, so he
committee's
goes to
discussion-
basketball camp.
Goes to basketball camp next
It's up to
year.
them to resolve, completely nothing to do with the village.
So a parent has, it goes to the lead, that leads,
Just doesn't show up.
doesn't show up, doesn't care, took your
Yep.
money, I'm not giving you your money back, I don't
Yep.
care,
Yep,
deal with it.
right.
That-
And then, in that case,
You could
maybe
go to
the
small
village.
claims court,
So then they have, there's no oversight over these leads.
but it's just like any other camp. You would like Camp Onasonk if you signed up for that. If they didn't provide what they promised, you'd have to go to small claims court to get whatever back. They don't have oversight either.
They don't have a board or administration.
If they chose to have a board or administration, they could. It depends how they're set up.
Okay. I'm just looking at the accountability.
The accountability would have to be with each camp instructor.
Right.
It's not a village summer rec program, it's a summer rec program that the village has put together, essentially a brochure book.
I think they'll
So
be confused.
You could have 3 different basketball camps.
Yeah.
And you can pick which one you want to go
Sure.
to.
And the village isn't recommending any of them.
Any of them.
No, I get all that and I get the liability issues. I'm just saying there's going to be with the change, because it's been the pattern, there's going to be confusion. Maybe not, hopefully not, but just to be prepared because, people are going to have those questions.
In the beginning, because you're used to coming to the village and paying for it there.
Right.
In this case, it's not gonna happen until the summer, so we'll have plenty of time to get the word out that, look, you don't sign up with the village anymore, you sign up with the camp person.
And all those will be on the website so people can find it. And then they're going to have to do their own research.
Email and everything else, and where the camp is, if they give us the information, we'll have where the camp is gonna go.
Right.
If it's all vague, I don't think we should take the money from those people and put an ad in the thing until we know at least who the person is or.
Right, yeah, I agree.
But-
Some kind of, if somebody just called up and says, put it down, I wanna take a basketball game, here's
Yeah.
$25.
Do we need to have a certain criteria then on who we're going to take the sponsorships or whatever,
I think
marketing
if
sponsorships?
we
Well,
go
then we
down
get
this
into
road, I don't know,
sponsoring.
can you deny people if they're paying you $25?
So you're saying, can a host of a camp be denied if you don't like its subject?
Yeah.
Or the way he operates or whatever? So if I
Jeff-
wanted to run a gun camp or something where I teach kids
My
about
question would be,
guns.
is like, what's the Illinois Times? I mean, the Illinois Times could put, people pay to advertise in that.
Yeah.
It would just be a paid advertisement for the most part. You don't have to vet those people, do you?
Can Illinois Times deny an ad if the people were willing to pay?
Yeah.
They can? Oh, okay.
Could you be sued for discrimination then?
Well, no, but I think it's all in how you set it up. I mean, if you're looking at truly having kind of a village structure of, it being a village program, then,
Not a village program, just a village. Here's a page that,
Well, that's the gray area that I don't understand. You're going to put a brochure together, but you have nothing to do with it. That's where.
it still looks like a village program.
Right.
If you got the Village of Chatham logo, here's all the programs. Fine print, this isn't a village program. I think that's,
or do you just get out of it altogether? But their recommendation was to do this?
Well, there's companies that do that. I get calls all the time. Every time a Chatham sports team makes it to a state event or a tournament, I got a call the other day, they were wanting us to put a sponsor page in for the girls' basketball team over in Jacksonville. So it was the high school, or the junior high, I think, basketball team was gonna play in a tournament over in Jacksonville. They were putting together a brochure book, And did the Village of Chatham want to take out an ad?
We would be putting an ad in their book.
That's just like if you were running a camp, you would be putting an ad in our book.
That's an advertisement. We're putting that book, and that would fall under the school board and the,
No, school board had nothing to do with it. This was a private company that was trying to sell ads,
oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
and they
It
were,
wasn't the team.
no, it
Okay.
wasn't the team.
So, do you want to go back to the board, the Parks Board, and see if, do we get out of it completely? Or do we have a place where?
We had those
So
discussions.
you did have that discussion?
Yeah,
And they came up with, we
Right.
should have a landing page.
Yeah, we should not take away the opportunity for the kids, but help facilitate it through more of a up-to-date method, I guess you might say. Like the existing method is thought to be outdated, where you have to pay via check and you have to fill out the paper form and you have to go to the village. Like they wanted it modernized essentially. If we were going to continue to do it, then you set up for online pay and online enrollment and do everything in a much more efficient manner.
That was their preference?
If the village wished to continue, there are suggested changes that they would.
If we did want to continue, what was their suggested changes?
Well, again, modernize the way in which you can enroll. Today, you have to fill out a paper form and write a paper check to the utility office.
But if we don't want to continue with it, what was
Then
their suggestion?
If you don't want to continue with the program, then their suggestion was to help, at least in the first year, help the camp operators that exist today
Get the word
take the
out.
ownership of it. So they have to call Ted at the community center to rent the basketball gym. They have to call Judy at the high school for the paintbrushes or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that the coordinator does today.
How many of these programs are duplicated through the school?
Many of them are, and I think that was part of, like, if you go back historically and look at the performance of the summer rec program, it's just this humongous cliff where the program has essentially become obsolete. And you'll see that in these numbers, especially if you go back. But part of that decline, personally, I thought was that it's just out of date and that you can't do things electronically. And that's how most people operate these days is, they want to be able to log in and see the calendar and put it in their iPhone, whatever, It just seems like the method has not really been updated and people are just moving on. But one of the reasons that Vicki explained to us was, well, we lost a lot to the baseball program because now the high school does one. And so if I'm the high school baseball coach and I'm hosting it, then everybody wants to come to my camp because then they'll remember my little kid that hit that, triple at one time, and maybe he'll get a spot on the baseball team or whatever. So it's almost like certain programs have moved, and because of that, the summer rec program has just been kneecapped.
So we would be helping them transition and then phase it out completely?
No, the suggestion was to continue to offer a marketing, whatever, whether it's on the Facebook page or on our website or whatever, but just a landing page that they can go to see all of the programs that
People
have,
want to offer.
Right.
that want to be offered, yeah.
Nothing is vetted.
Right now, Vicki puts together probably a 50 to 60 page PowerPoint presentation. And each page is a different camp with all of the contact information. I would assume that you would do the exact same thing. She puts it all together. We put that PowerPoint presentation on the village webpage under summer rec. The only difference is we won't collect the money anymore. The camp people will collect the money. Other than that, it will run no different than the way that it was run this year.
I would have a pretty large, prominent disclaimer that this is not a Village of Chatham program.
Yeah.
And
we do not,
you need to contact camp administrators to pay.
we don't, what do you call it, vet
So,
these camps.
So could you guys come up with a disclaimer
Absolutely.
and then make it
And then
like,
the village won't be accepting the money either. They'll have to register, they'll have to
They still
pay.
have to go and work with
Yep.
each camp director and stuff. And most of those people could have that stuff in place. They've run camps for quite a while.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pat. What did Massey and Massey have any comment on a summer rec program in their comprehensive plan? Just,
No.
we're looking at all the parks, and I just, the other part and why I ask these questions is just for a town that's our size and growing and having so many families, it seems strange that we're stepping away. And I understand the reasons. I certainly do with the liability and the issues. But it just seems strange to step away and not have a summer rec program for the village.
I think what the board is saying is that it's simply, like, based on the numbers that we're seeing, it doesn't have the impact that
Yeah.
I think it would.
Yeah.
So either something needs to significantly change, or you go the other way and step back even further than.
Well, the big thing is like Dewey said, the school is offering a better solution.
Right.
They run their own camps now where all of those.
And the schools include the little ones now.
Right.
They used to not.
And the schools have access to,
Right.
areas that we don't. Like, we can't host a baseball camp on their fields because.
Or in the basketball gym or anything else.
Right.
So
And then you get high school age, you're looking at college camps. You're not looking at
Right.
camps around here.
Right.
Again, I love the program. Many of my kids attend many of the camps each year.
Yeah, that's where I'm stuck, is because my kids went through a lot of these programs over the years. So I don't want to see it go away.
The village.
But I don't want to just drag something along because it's what we've always done.
see, I don't think
The board-
anything has to go.
Right. The board is thinking that many of these programs, because, the board is made up of pretty active people, they know almost all of these hosts, and they think, well, we know Kristen Wilburn will still have an art camp, guaranteed.
Yeah.
So it's not as much that the programs will be taken away. Maybe some of them, like maybe the Burkett camp or something, maybe some will, but overall, they'll
And
mostly still be there.
More may be willing to run camps if we charge, $25 or $50 to advertise, where, Kristen was paying us $240 before.
All we're asked, before you paid for each kid that went to your camp.
Yeah.
Now you're just paying a one-time fee for the ad to go in there, and I thought around $25 would be
Yeah, and then
sufficient.
you'll make more money.
But if, and to the point earlier made, that the school's offering a lot of these programs, and I would certainly see, we don't need to be duplicative of programs they're putting on, but if there's programs they're not and we are, and they're still of interest, because we still have quite a few kids going through.
Yeah, but
Does
there's
it
a
become then
utility.
where we have an intergovernmental agreement where, there's a partnership in some way? Or maybe we need to just say, the school's running this?
See, that's where you're wrong. The schools are not running it.
Yeah.
The teacher at the school is.
The coaches.
And he has the right to use the gym.
Yeah.
For his camp.
Yeah.
And there's
our
a-
teacher is using it in the art classroom or something like that.
There's a
It's not
utility.
the school behind it, just like I'm trying to get it so that the village isn't behind it. It's individuals that are running these.
And how do they market it?
Right now, we do the marketing for it.
For the school programs?
School programs, they do it
No,
for the
the-
school.
The school programs are just doing their own.
But in terms of for each individual program, how's that program being marketed?
It goes to the
Well,
boosters.
back in the day, it went to the schools and then it went out and came home in the backpacks.
Yeah.
Sometime around
It's now the
March and
virtual
April.
backpack.
Now it comes
Right.
out in an email.
Is it
Sign
on
up.
their website? Is it on the school website?
I'm not sure.
But
I
you'll see
didn't look
that
at
it's
those.
not sponsored by the school.
Right.
Each camp is sponsored by.
It goes to the athletic boosters.
But there is a
Yeah.
utility.
It goes to that coach.
Huh?
There is a utility to having these programs separated from the school because of what you mentioned earlier, where if your kid is noticed by the baseball coach and he's going to all of these things, well, some kids aren't going to be, and they just want to play. They just want something to do. And that's what, I had kids in all different athletic, I've had 5 kids. We've had all kids in all different kind of athletic capabilities. And these programs the village programs were good for all of them, whether they were athletic or not, so.
The other thing about this list is that it's already been vetted. I mean, we know all these people. So it's pretty safe to put this out on the website. It would be the new ones that we don't know. And who knows what 25 or whatever they're paying is going to bring in. I mean,
I think I get what they're going after.
So
I-
now the question is does the board want to consider, would it require an ordinance or a resolution?
Well, it depends on what you want to do. I don't know that there's nothing in the village.
We're wanting to take away the administrative portion away from us and just go to the, marketing portion.
I'd probably do it by resolution, so then you can at least have something in writing and it can be specific and everybody can understand. And, maybe it's not even called the village's Park and Rec program. Maybe it's just Park and Rec opportunities in the village that, you're just passing along information type of a thing. So-
Yeah, the only ordinance that I'm aware is just in reference to the Public Properties Commission, and it says, amongst their duties is to review the annual Chatham Summer Recreation Program and provide comments.
Right.
So that's me doing this, but you guys can do whatever you want.
Well done, trustee Mercy.
Yeah, you could bring her in, whatever you want to do. I don't care. I'm just representing that board, and that's what they said. Either double down or back out. It's not completely, but.
Okay.
Okay.
So what kind of action do we want to come out of this?
I think you should advise.
I think it's just a recommendation.
Yep.
Yeah.
I recommend Mr. McCarthy what you think we should do.
Back out and market?
Do we need a,
But if we're going to charge $25, do we need a resolution for him to be able to do that?
I don't think
There
no.
was no resolution setting the price for each camp. There was
Okay.
no resolution for setting the coordinator's salary.
Is that what we want to try to see how it goes? I mean, that was the park's recommendation, is to market it and handhold for a year.
Yeah, and follow the.
See how it goes.
Board's
Yeah.
recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll follow the board's recommendation.
The only thing I would suggest is this wasn't on the agenda as a topic, so obviously it comes under your report, but you may actually want to put this,
Move it to the board.
move it to the board so that,
Yeah.
there is public notice and there's formal, some sort of formal record of.
Move it to the board that we're going to make the summer program for the summer rec program just a marketing piece, we're not going to administrate it anymore.
One thing to consider when doing that is just, it is convenient as a parent to be able to go to one utility office and sign up for 6 camps. You might have to write separate checks, but at least it's, that convenience will go away when we step out of it, but.
I think that's the unfortunate part, as you said with electronic, it would have been, that go online, do my online form, submit my payment online, but, that's not going to be an option because these individual.
oh, it's an option. If the individual camp owner knows how to do it, it's an option.
Yeah, they're just going to, you have to do it,
They'll find you. Or you'll find them.
Apple Pay maybe, I don't know.
Do you want to move it to the board or to the next committee of the whole?
Move it to the board because we'll just make a recommendation to Pat. That way people have an attempt to have public comments if they want to see it stay, and we can not make the recommendation.
Something written out, then we did it in resolution or motion format or something.
Okay, public comments on village business. Anybody have comments on village business? Okay, scheduled meetings, committee of the whole, 6:15, January 13th,
14th.
January 14th. And then, do we have any reasons for a closed session? Mr. Jurgens?
Nope.
Not even for your last hoorah?
Nope.
All right, it's going out with a bang.
I'll sign our,
Have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Charo, seconded.
I'll second.
Trustee Mann. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. I oppose.
All right, you can
I'm
sit here.
kidding. Aye.
it's already in the record.
Kid.